A new year, more projects. Follow along for things cobbled together, soldered together, and, well, messed around with. And considering that this was finally the year that Microsoft left the computer business, I naturally switched to Linux. I also cried a lot, but that's just how the story goes. Hang around for things built, because the basement wasn't full enough. Then I built a stationary PC with 2 monitors, because that's natural what you do. And 1, 2, 3 RCs, because I can't stop myself. Embarrassing details after the intro. Still here? Well, good. Then we're going to look at holiday photos. And yes, I know it's not Christmas anymore. And while the world may look like this, there were also a lot of good times. And in terms of projects, there were some that were more important than others. And for my usual tricks of soldering things together, we should probably start here with something I made last year, an updated GP2040 based controller. And for this year I thought I'd go big, and you don't get much larger than arcade style. And sure, in a previous episode I've talked a big game about making it right-handed, but the top plate arrived with already beveled screw holes, so I couldn't exactly do that. As for the quality of the parts, I went with the cheapest ones available, mainly thinking that if I used it enough to break it, I deserved better parts. The button layout may be a bit weird, but that's because I wanted to use it with the Evercade.
Player one, ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Run!
Well, guess I can't say the stick made me any good at these games. On the other hand, playing them with the gamepad that came with the system is just misery all around, so at least now I get to enjoy them. As for the inside, it was a lot of doing this. Truly riveting stuff that I'm sure you would have wanted the full 6-hour edit of. Moving on to smaller things, I also made a smaller version for the new version of the little micro that could. ZX Spectrum, by the way. or the 64, whatever floats your boat. And because I have terrible taste in movies, I called it Adapter 9 from 2040. I probably tinkered with more adapters than that, but at some point you just lose track. The games themselves only use the one button, but for the nostalgia boxes from Evercade and the various offerings from Retro Games Limited, you need the rest for menu navigation and so on. So in the end, for this one, I just put the rest of them on the adapter itself. As for this year's solder fumes, that was it. As for why I'm showing off this sorry excuse for a trackball, well, I'll get to that shortly. But first, we have to talk about Microsoft. I've used their product since Windows 3.0. Not because it was the best, but simply because it was already there. And this year, they've simply left us. So this year's big project, switching to Linux. And no, it isn't Arch. I did my time, and my time was with Slackware. And Arch was the easy way out. Instead, I went with Linux Mint. Mainly because I like my shit to work and not have to worry about some pushing code that hasn't been tested in any way whatsoever. So I took my somewhat current laptop, split the disk in half and set about installing things. Booted fine the first time from USB, except the primary hard disk didn't show up. Hit back, rebooted and black screen with an error message on it. Apparently it updated the UEFI files and now it can't find the rest of them. Windows still works, so there's that. Fixed due to some obscure forum post describing how to delete some files and copy things around. And then it booted, for the second time. So, I completed the installation and continued my life with half of the disk space available. Trying to move files off the system to regain some disk space. The whole thing filled up the entire RAM and froze the user interface. My last issue came with the audio. Every time it played a sound file, it made a popping noise. And with editing videos and voiceovers and scrolling across a timeline, so using it was basically pop 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 pop. And sure, all of these things have workarounds. Things that experienced people know how to fix. My point is just that it isn't ready for mainstream. And sometimes I just think we just have to stop pretending that it is in order for it to become. And no, I probably wouldn't go back either. Mainly because I'm just having too much fun. Touching on Kden Live, it has absolutely no hardware acceleration. So in the end, I had to build another system. The new one is based on Ryzen 9, and compared to the last system I built almost 2 decades ago, there's practically no expandability. Then again, there's nothing interesting to plug into it, so it all evens out in the end. Unless you count RGB, that is. Though, to be honest, I found it incredibly annoying, so I cut all of those wires. Getting onto things that are actually DIY, and not just hammering part A into slot B. I wanted to learn a bit more about the Cinnamon desktop, so I started writing a desklet for it. Those are the ones in the top right corner. But don't worry, because we're going to go through them one by one. And they're gone. So let's install the first one. And the point of that was to see whether the correct drivers for the display adapter was installed. And for me, that's the closed source drivers. But mainly, it was just an excuse to write a desklet. A desklet being a small JavaScript program running on your desktop. And while I couldn't find very much in the way of usable documentation for them, I think I got pretty far in the end, displaying most of what I wanted it to do, and at times just trying to figure out the answers to what I needed to do by searching through other published testlets. Moving on to what I alluded to earlier, for my system I wanted to throw up warnings if the closed source NVIDIA driver hasn't been loaded, as the expectation field shown. I specifically don't want the open source driver, and additionally I want to ensure that the chipset driver is loaded properly. Keep in mind though that this is just a desklet that monitors things. It doesn't actually do anything with the information except present it. Moving on to more interesting things, I wanted something that could plug into LM sensors, a common subsystem for displaying information about typical hardware sensors such as temperatures and fan speeds. While I was surprised that one didn't already exist, that might just be me not looking hard enough. In terms of metrics, there's a whole lot of them available on modern systems, so it soon became evident that I would need some sort of filtering, either by type or using some sort of rule-based system that even I can't recall all of the details of. The short version is that sensors are grouped by chips, same as in LM sensors. Specific sensors can also have rules attached to them, but then we also need to have a second part of the name that specifies the chip. Rules are evaluated in order, but only the first match will be used. An asterisk can be used to specify partial names, which is why the rule groups end with a catch-all. The exclamation point is used to exclude matches, and the $sign specifically can be used to rename entries. Note that this may cause overlapping names, and this is intentional, as that would give us the ability to combine groups in the display. And that's about as much as I think I need to say without, well, doing a public performance reading of the README, while at least tangentially on the topic of fans. I quickly came to the conclusion that the new computer was simply too loud for me to comfortably use it. Among the worst offenders was probably the NVIDIA RTX 3050 that I had initially bought, so I returned that one and got one that was passively cooled, except that it actually requires cooling. You just have to provide your own. I now needed to control the case fans, but based on the temperature from this card. My first option was looking at fan control, though to be completely honest, this doesn't look like something I want to spend time changing or even working on. Not because it's bad, but I don't consider bash scripting a fun time. Instead, I spent weeks replacing those 700 lines with roughly 4,000 lines of Python code. To be fair, I haven't done all that much in Python since version 1.6. Instead of researching heavily how to do things Pythonic or whatever it is you kids call it these days, I just went with the fun factor by just implementing things that I wanted to implement. As for functionality, well, it does read a sensor, picks a suitable fan setting, and sees what happens from there. It might possibly be a contender for the world's most convoluted way of setting a single byte value. And because I wanted to try writing one, I added a text-based configuration tool. And with that, we conclude this year's segment on playing around with computers. And yes, I'm sorry that I don't sound entirely excited about Linux. I truly am, except Kden Live. That thing has been a nightmare. On to more serious hardware. This year I also worked my way through several RC kits, and having built a couple of TTO2s, I always wondered what the TTO1 was like. So I built one. It's definitely more fiddly to work on and build, but obviously a touring chassis. And I based this on, well, there's practically no shock travel in that at all. at least without taking a Dremel to it, which is a real shame as this was the body that came with the kit. There was only one option left to me. I built another TTO2 kit, and it had to be different, so I ordered some conversion kits from Eagle Racing. It was intended for drifting, I'm sure, but if that doesn't look like a proper rally suspension, then I don't know rally. Except I really don't, because I don't watch a lot of it, especially for something this modern. As for driving, it's quite fun, and like all TTO2s, the steering jams easily. Oh, and because I made it ridiculously tall, it also bump steers a lot. Back in the day, my brother had a Nico car. He only let me drive it at one time, but it was black and it was yellow. That's all I could remember of the details, so I bought a Hornet. It's a primitive design, and getting those tires on the rims actually made me cry a little. Beyond that, it's one of those things that you can still buy, but feels like it is workmanship, meaning that it doesn't have all of the cost reductions that we're accustomed to now. No running footage, as I forgot to hit record. And with the vintage out of the way, I would also like to own something a bit more modern. And when the BBX came out originally, it was a bit too costly affair. But when there was a sale, I was all over that. Super fiddly to put together, mostly due to screws that'll strip if you even look at them hard. And I've even got the hardware. But anyway, it's a super fun car. Just don't do like I did and flip it onto the roof the first time you take it out. And if it does sound like this, you should probably go inside again. Because that's a slipping ball differential. And I ended up buying just a gear differential instead. Much easier to assemble. Probably can take a lot more beating. At least compared to a ball differential that was built by me. And as we're approaching the 20-minute mark of the video, editing about a fortnight after Christmas Eve, that's fortnight as in the time span, not the cartoony game. Anyway, let's just focus on 2026 not sucking for the entire planet. At least I've got some distractions planned for the future. I was planning on building another ZX Spectrum, because for some obscure reason I quite enjoy using them. To go with it, I designed some expansion boards, mostly to aid in the development of new hardware, and at the same time finally have a reason to do anything with a Raspberry Pi Pico. Will it work? Find out next year, or hopefully this year. Also, I was lucky enough to convince my wife that I needed another RC car, and that was my Christmas present this year. Undoubtedly, I must have been persuasive, as I don't really recall being quite that nice. And that was all of the noteworthy projects for this year. Rambled off late January with Christmas decorations in the background. If anyone makes it this far, enjoy the new year while it lasts.